This chart shows the population of Philadelphia between 1860 and 1900. In those 40 years, the city's Black population nearly tripled, jumping from roughly 22,000 residents to over 62,000. The records reveal a highly intentional movement. This was a strategic relocation, organized by a specific demographic seeking to escape Southern stagnation. When we break down the demographics of those arriving, a clear pattern emerges. The vast majority were young, able-bodied workers between the ages of 15 and 50. They were in the prime of their working lives. They arrived with the specific intent of trading Southern agricultural labor for Northern industrial opportunity. Economic hardship drove many north, but for a large portion of the migrant population, the journey was an escape from targeted physical violence. In 1898, a violent mob overthrew the local government in Wilmington, North Carolina, and burned a Black-owned newspaper to the ground. That single event created a wave of roughly 1,000 refugees who fled to Philadelphia to escape the bloodshed. The 1906 Atlanta riots had a similar effect. The violence forced highly educated professionals, including a successful magazine editor, to flee to the city, where they often took menial jobs, like heavy janitorial work, rather than risk staying in the oppressive South. For these individuals, crossing the Mason-Dixon line was an act of survival. They were political exiles fleeing a campaign of targeted, systemic oppression. Moving north required navigating a covert network of labor agents. These agents secured passage for migrants on northbound trains and steamships, making the trip up the coast from Virginia and Maryland. This journey involved a massive number of women traveling independently. In 1 year alone, protective agencies met over 1,600 female migrants arriving at the Philadelphia docks. Many of these women stepped directly into the workforce, arriving specifically to fill severe shortages in domestic service roles across the city. This data reveals the primary pull of the city. 54% of men and 46% of women explicitly cited the expectation of higher wages as their reason for relocating. Despite the trauma that sparked their departure, the journey was a calculated economic move. These migrants were following the clear promise of higher earnings and better treatment. When this workforce arrived, Philadelphia's industrial machine immediately absorbed them. Thousands of able-bodied workers were put to work building the city's modern infrastructure. They laid the asphalt for new streets and constructed the massive water filter plants that fueled the city's growth. They also provided the labor for Philadelphia's most ambitious public works project, the construction of the new subway system. Through heavy manual labor, swinging pickaxes and shoveling thousands of tons of earth, these migrants carved out the underground transportation network the city still uses. They provided the essential muscle for the city's expansion. The refugees who fled the South became the physical builders of modern Philadelphia's foundation. However, providing the labor that built the city did not grant these workers housing freedom or social equality. Migrants were largely restricted to crowded, segregated zones like the 7th and 30th wards, where they were forced into dilapidated urban shacks and narrow alleyways. This reality differed sharply from the experience of European immigrants arriving in the city during the same era. While Black migrants arrived with a full command of the English language and American customs, they faced rigid racial boundaries that non-English-speaking Europeans could eventually move past. The Northern Promised Land presented a paradox: vital economic inclusion alongside strict geographic and social exclusion. While confined to these districts alongside new Jewish and Italian immigrants, the Black community began building its own communal wealth. Over time, this accumulated economic power allowed families to move beyond the 7th Ward, purchasing homes in neighborhoods like Elmwood and Germantown. In these new areas, they established permanent anchors, stone churches, and civic organizations that remain centers of neighborhood life today. The refugees who fled Southern oppression provided the essential labor that allowed Philadelphia to expand. By laying the city's subways and founding its lasting institutions, they established a permanent stake in the metropolis they helped construct.